Then our next speaker is actually, indeed, Dr. Jovana Karanovic from the Department of Technology and Operations Management at Rotterdam School of Management. We couldn't find you, but give her a great applause.
And guys, I have an updated photo, by the way. I see you didn't get to that one. I look so much better on the other photo. Well, hello, everyone. Tina, thank you so much for bringing us all together. And I'm really glad Koen set the stage for me and giving you a gist of what platforms are about. So, by show of hands, in the last 6 months, how many of you have used at least one of these platforms? Yeah, basically, most of us, right? When did you use it? Perhaps you arrived to a new city, you came to the airport, you needed to get to your hotel, and you just didn't want to deal with the metro system, so you called an Uber. Or you remember that night where you were probably at home, lazy, tucked into your couch, and just didn't want to cook anything. So you called Hausbesorg, or Uber Eats, or Deliveroo. Or perhaps you were organizing a birthday party, and you needed someone to make your birthday party invitation. So you went to Upwork. We just can't help ourselves, but keep clicking through these platforms and getting this convenient service. If 10 years ago, I told you that you would pay an average of 150 euros a night to sleep on a stranger's bed, you would probably laugh at me. But all of us are doing that now. We are going to Airbnb and we are paying loads of money to sleep in a stranger's house. So these platforms are completely changing a way we are transacting. Airbnb is valued almost as much as Marriott, one of the world's largest hotel chains. And Uber has been valued more than General Motors, a company that existed since 1906. These companies are asset-light, but network-rich. They don't own real estate, they don't own mines. Airbnb doesn't own any hotels. Uber doesn't have any cars. They're not in the business of production. They're in business of connection. And they are also changing what we value in the society. Access over ownership. We want access to things, to goods, and we want it now. We want availability of a workforce over predictability. And we are interested in gigs over lifetime careers. Younger generations don't want to go to a company and be there for 20 years. They want to hop from one task to another. They want to experience themselves in different fields. And this is what these platforms are making possible for them. So today, I want to share with you 5 lessons that I learned having studied these platforms for the past 6 years. So, first lesson that I learned is platforms are here to stay. Any of you know where this is? Yes, Milan. It's the first and oldest shopping mall in Europe, Galleria Vittorio Emanuele. And the first shopping mall was actually a place where merchants and consumers would come together to transact. The more merchants open up, the more stores, the more valuable is a shopping mall to you, and the other way around. So the first shopping mall was actually a platform. So fast forward to the platforms that we know is they enable easy access to goods and services by using digital technologies. That's your Uber, that's your Airbnb, that's your Deliveroo. They reduce the costs of contracting and searching for a product or service. Let's say right now you want to have a donut from your favorite bakery. we can all agree that there is probably a person in this audience that for $5 would run to your favorite bakery and get you that donut. But the cost of searching for that person is so high that the transaction would probably never take place. What the food delivery platforms have done for us, they made it incredibly easy to find that person with just a click. And they can scale incredibly quickly. As I mentioned at the beginning, they own no assets. They only need a network. That's why when you go to London or Paris or any other city, you're also seeing Uber and Airbnb and all these platforms. So it makes their scaling incredibly quickly, and it gains this efficiency for us. So they're definitely here to stay. The second lesson that I learned is the community is at the heart of these platforms. When Apple got its iPhone and App Store, it didn't allow any external app developers. So all Apple apps were developed internally. And then someone obviously illegally started creating apps for Apple, and Apple realized they could actually leverage and monetize on this community. Apple envisioned iPhone and its operating system much more than just a product. It envisioned it as a platform, where on one side, there are app developers, and on the other side, they're customers. You benefit from more app developers because there is more choice for you. You can get any app you want, and app developers obviously benefit from more of you joining. So at the moment, Apple Store offers around 2.2 million apps and generates $45 billion for its developers, something they could have never done if it kept producing apps only internally. So this example shows how powerful it can be relying on communities and building on skills and resources they own. But communities can also hurt business of platforms. We have seen that back in 2017. The former American president, Donald Trump, introduced a ban on immigrants. Taxi drivers in New York were protesting, and they were not taking any rides. But Uber saw it as an opportunity to make some extra profit. So Uber kept operating. And this enraged so many consumers, so many people like you and I, and so many drivers, that a movement unfolded across social media with the hashtag #DeleteUber. And this movement was so powerful that when Uber launched for an IPO in 2019, it listed in risk factors that thousands of hundreds of people deleted Uber app, which created distrust in the company and led to some negative effects. So as we see, communities can be beneficial for companies, but communities can also revolt against companies and hurt business. And when it comes to these platforms, communities number in millions, and they can, in theory, disappear overnight. The third lesson I learned is that network and data are power generators. Maybe you remember last year, the Instagram and Facebook were out for about 6 hours. You guys remember that? You couldn't contact your friends or so on. And just in these 6 hours, millions of euros were lost. So if you draw a parallel with the pandemic, during pandemic, many cafes and restaurants were closed. Because they were closed, restaurants couldn't get customers in, and they were simply not generating any revenue. Well, when a major social media platform goes down, businesses cannot access customers. They have nothing to sell them. So with this example, we show that platforms are actually gatekeepers. They allow you to come into the platform, advertise your services, and get customers. Another example of a platform being a gatekeeper is Upwork, a platform where you can go to find graphic design services, programming, or so on. And you can also offer tasks yourself, like consulting services, for example. But these platforms store data on workers' earning, on workers' reputation, on skills. And it doesn't matter anymore what you're offline. It only matters what you are online. So if you want to go to another platform, you probably cannot take this reputation you have built with you. So platforms are gatekeepers. They have data, and this gives them unprecedented power to control access to the labor market. The lesson 4 I want to share with you is that the dominant players, Ubers and Airbnbs of this world, tell the story of what platforms are about. But there is more than one flavor to platforms, and I want to give you a taste of it. Platform cooperatives are platforms that are similar to Uber and Airbnb, but unlike them, they're owned and governed by their workers, users, or both. The logic is very simple. If a 15-year-old can create an app that connects users to one another, why wouldn't workers themselves build an app but capture value back? At the moment, these companies capture most of the profit from these platforms. By being owned by workers or users, they could capture it back. And this is happening all over the world. We have an example of Stocksy. It's a stock photography website that's being owned by more than 1,000 photographers. Or Partago, electric car sharing cooperative from Belgium. Or Wilhelpen, that offers informal care services to people. Or Fairbnb, your cooperative version of Airbnb owned by its workers. So how are they different? Platform cooperatives promise more fair value distribution. So platforms, mainstream platforms, at the end of the day, just want to meet their bottom line, and that is create profit for their shareholders. These platforms are more equitable. They also want to distribute value to other people that are owning it, actually. They abide by cooperative governance structure. So they resemble your traditional cooperatives, the agricultural cooperatives, for instance, which we've had in the Netherlands and around the world since the 19th century. They promote democratic decision-making, so they involve users in a decision-making process, which the mainstream platforms rarely do. And unlike mainstream platforms, they have technological solutions, so they have a platform, they have technological architecture, but unlike them, they're usually driven by some social mission. So for example, Fairbnb, which is a co-op counterpart of Airbnb, wants to promote sustainable tourism. So they want to prevent people owning 10 or more houses and just the rich getting richer. So they have a policy, one host, one house policy, meaning that the platform economy should go back to the sharing economy, where you really rent your house only when you're away. And the final lesson that I want to share with you as a takeaway of this is that as consumers, we have a choice to decide how we want to consume. So the next time you need a ride and you're lazy to cook, remember that you're the one clicking, and make sure to do it wisely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.